Hi, today I thought I would talk to you a little bit more about the Danish royal family since we already have a video out there about the Queen and my thoughts on her. Well, I thought today's video could be about the Crown Prince and Princess of Denmark. And to be quite honest, what my connections to them are. Stay tuned. Come along as my Danish husband and our 2 kids show this American what it means to live a life in Denmark. My new Danish life. Hi there and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kelly and I'm an American who lives in Denmark. And I'm actually married to a Danish guy, so I've got a little bit of the inside scoop of all things Danish. And I have to say though, that when I lived in the US, I didn't really know anything about the Danish royal family. However, I did know about the Crown Prince and Princess because of one very special thing that happened when we lived in the US. But I will tell you about that at the end of the video, so you'll have to hang on until then. It's a really good story, so you're going to want to hang out. But the Danish royal family, I've already talked about the Queen Margrethe II in another video. Here's a link. You can go to that video, or I'll put it in the description and then just go to it afterwards. How about that? Before we get started though, if you have not already subscribed to my channel, please consider doing that. I've got a lot of really great content and I think that you'd enjoy it. So if you're not a subscriber, go ahead and click on that red button. But if you are a subscriber, thank you so much for being here. I so much appreciate you. Now, let's get to the good stuff. The Crown Prince and the Crown Princess of Denmark. What should we know about them? What do I think is interesting to know about them? And why do I think they're fantastic together? Let's start off, shall we, with the piece de la résistance. Crown Prince Frederik. Need I say more? If you want to pause and just stare at this picture, I completely understand where you're coming from. He's a very nice looking guy. You know, and when you are like a girl growing up in the US, the only princes that you really ever hear about are the ones from England. We hear about Prince Charles, Prince William, Prince Harry, and William and Harry are younger than I am, and Prince Charles, well, he's just not very nice to look at. I'm sorry if I'm being judgmental, but it's just my opinion. But when you've got a guy like this, who's not that much older than I am, why wasn't he talked about more in the US? I mean, this guy's like a heartthrob, right? Very nice, very easy on the eyes. But we need to get past that so we can talk a little bit more about, who he is and the fact that, he's much more than a pretty face. So let's do that. So first off, who is this beautiful specimen of man? Well, his name is Crown Prince Frederik Andre Henrik Christian. Why on earth he needs that many names, I have no idea. It seems to be kind of a running thing with a lot of these royals that they tend to have a lot of first names, but no last name. It's weird. He was born on May 26, 1968. And what's really cool about him is that he grew up in Copenhagen, right? There's a castle in the middle of the town. That's where he lives now, and that's where the Queen lives now. And the thing is that he actually went to school in Copenhagen. I mean, part of it obviously was at the castle, but part of it, he went to school there. I just can't imagine that. I can't imagine first having a prince in our country and then having one who goes to school with like regular kids. That's just crazy, but also pretty cool. And he went to the University of Aarhus, which is where his mom studied. I don't know if that's something that these schools advertise, but I mean, I totally would, especially to foreigners who really don't know these things. But that's just not something, that's a part of like what it means to be Danish, to say, oh, this school is where the Crown Prince went, I mean, nobody really talks about that kind of stuff, but that's really interesting. Of all the places where they could study really in the world, this is where they studied, some place that's close to where I live, and I didn't know that, and I just think that's really interesting. It just makes it seem that they're more like regular people than like royalty, because when you think of royalty, you think, oh, they're never around the people and they never come out. But, it seems that he really wanted to have a life that was normal. I think it really shows, you know, about what it means to be Danish. If he wants to be like everybody else, you know, it's not so much that everybody wants to be like him, but he wants to be like them. And I think that's really kind of cool. So when he was there at Aarhus University, he studied political science, which makes a lot of sense, because if you're going to one day be the king of a country, you probably should know a little bit more about governments and things like that. One thing though that I really like about him is that he seems to be a hard worker, and he seems to be kind of an overachiever in ways. But he was also really active in the military. Something that he did after he graduated from high school. I mean, that's a thing here in Denmark where you can go into the armed forces, which it's like any other country, right? But Denmark's such a small country, a lot of times it's obviously by voluntary, but they have a lottery. So, you know, if your number gets called, then you're, you know, forced to be in the army, but it's not for very long. I don't know if it's like a year or 2 years or something. But he full-fledged went in, and he kind of went as far as he could. Yes, obviously, you know, when he becomes king, he's going to be like, you know, in charge of all of these armed forces and everything. But he really is going to be someone who knows about it because he's had the experience. He went through all these trainings. You know, he was a frogman, which is a lot in a way like I think an American Navy SEAL. I don't know if the training is exactly the same, but he seems to be someone who is really interested in learning as much as he can about something. I think a lot of people can really respect that about him. So as of 2010, he was made the commander of the Navy and the colonel of the Army and the Air Forces. So I don't know if that's something that's easy to, you know, obtain. If you are just an average Danish citizen, I would think that you'd have to be quite old with many, many years of service and many tours and different wars and stuff like that, that you would be able to get to those positions. So perhaps, you know, it's leaning a little bit more in his favor and he gets some special perks because of his position, but still, he's someone who has worked for it. Okay, so let's talk about things that I really like about the Crown Prince. One is that he really likes rock and roll. And this is something that it blows my mind in a way. I have heard that his favorite band is Dizzy Miss Lizzy, which is a Danish rock group. But he has been known to actually play with them on stage. Like he's playing his harmonica, and I think he may have even played a guitar with them on stage during their concerts. He's so involved and excited about their band that he actually performs. It's not like, oh, the prince is watching us from his royal seat. No, he's on stage rocking out, and I think that's really cool. Number 2 is that he is a big sports guy, and you know, people might be thinking, what's that? Why is that so important? When the Crown Prince turned 50, he actually created this race or this run that was going on all throughout Denmark in all of the major cities, and it was called the Royal Run because it was in celebration of his 50th birthday. So it was right around the time when he had his birthday and he turned 50. And you know, to me, that's what a race is like in the United States. I did so many runs like that in the United States, like in Chicago, like where I lived, and we would always have special shirts made, and there would be like these big medals that you would get. There'd be like a party scene going on with it, maybe some music, and it was just always a lot of fun. And I never really saw that here in Denmark. There'd always be some things, but it would always be on a much lower scale. But this was huge. I did this race in Aarhus, and it was so much fun. I think I did the 10K, but it was a lot of fun with the shirts, and he was there. He was there to say a little something, and we're all standing there, this huge group of people, because there's so many people who wanted to participate in this. In fact, here is the medal that I got for the Royal Run. This was in 2018, but yeah, it's got like his little crown and everything. You know, and it's made to look like there's a little bit of bling on it. It's a little sparkly and everything. But yeah, Royal Run. 50 because he turned 50. And then 18 is the year 2018. And he's tried to do some races since then, and I think they've been quite successful. If you've done the Royal Run or any other big race, let me know about it in the comments, because I would love to connect with some other runners on here. He's also really big into sailboats and, sailboat racing. I just think that stuff is really interesting. He's not just somebody who sits in a castle that people talk about, but he's out there doing things. Ooh, I'm getting a little thirsty. Ooh. I would say my number 3 is because he's a crybaby, and I don't mean it because he's a crybaby. When you watched the video of when he got married, he was all teary-eyed and you could tell he was so nervous. And it's so funny because there are so many royal weddings, I mean, at least lately, that you could see them and they're all happy and breathing deep and confident, and you could just tell he was like shaking in his boots. He gets emotional about things, and I think that just makes him seem more human, and I really like that about him. I like the idea that he was getting teary-eyed at his weddings. Also, when he turned 50, there was like this big party, and it's so funny because when his wife gave a speech at the dinner, of course part of that dinner again was televised, so I watched it, people were giving speeches to him, and when his wife gave the speech to him, he was like all teary-eyed, wiping his eyes with his napkin. He's so like touched and moved by people who mean something to him, and I just really love that. I love people who are very emotionally connected to other people, where they have like tears of joy. I think that's fantastic. Is the fact that he is a very loving family man. It's so interesting when you compare him to other princes, right? And again, for me, it's mostly England because really I don't know anything else. But I know that there are a lot of other royal families out there. I just don't know anything about them. And I know that they have a lot of rules. They can't, show, public displays of affection. They can't do certain things. There's a lot of things that they're not allowed to do, right? With that, you have to be kind of a model version of yourself, and you're representing the crown the entire time. Well, he doesn't really seem to be so concerned with being a representative of the monarchy. And it's so laid back and chill, like the whole family. Even the queen is so laid back and chill. I mean, my gosh, she's fantastic. But with him, if you see him with his children, they've got their hands on him, they're holding onto him, hugging. He's doing all kinds of things with his kids, and he doesn't care about not being looked at as being the prime example of a monarch. He is first and foremost a family man, and I think that goes a lot with that idea of how he wants to be kind of like everybody else. He doesn't want the fact that he's the crown prince and one day the king of Denmark get in the way of the fact that he is Frederik first, and he's a husband, and he is a runner, and he's a dad, and he is a military man, and he's all of these other things. And I think that is so cool. And I just love seeing pictures with him and his family because it is so comfortable. You can just see when they're sitting, they're all like lounging a lot of times. Sure, they have their nice, beautiful pictures that everybody is going to have. Every family is going to have a sit up straight. This is a nice picture. It's going on our Christmas card. You know what I mean? But there are so many pictures that they know people are taking of them, and they're just chill. They're just chill. And he's like, got a kid on his lap. Hey, got a kid on my lap. Another one that goes with that, should we say 5? He's very loving. He loves his wife. It's like the way that he holds her hand, the way that, he looks at her, he kisses her in public. I mean, it's not... I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they have a lot of like rules of things that you should and shouldn't do, but he doesn't let that get in the way of showing affection for his wife. And I have read so many things about how he's constantly buying flowers for her, how he's, constantly doing little things for her, just like any other husband who's in love, I guess you could say. But my number 6 with that is that he's just not pompous. I love the fact that he wants to be like everybody else. So I've mentioned that throughout the video. He wants to be like a normal Zane. He loves Denmark. He loves the people of Denmark, and it's so apparent in like everything he does. He never seems to be like the type of person who is above anybody else, and he just seems to just enjoy whatever situation he's in. You never hear anything bad about this guy. So, excuse me. We're having a party. I don't know what you're drinking, but when you're watching my videos from now on, let's kick back here. Okay, so we need to know a little bit about this wife, right? The Crown Princess Mary. Obviously, she's not Danish. When you look at all of these royals, they don't marry anybody from Denmark, right? I mean, that would be kind of interesting. But she's from Australia. She is just, you know, at a bar during the Sydney Olympics in Australia, just hanging out with her girlfriends, just, you know, having a little. And she meets this guy in the bar, Frederik. I don't know, Fred, whatever. He has a great conversation. She likes him. She had no idea he was a prince. What do people really know about the Danish monarchy outside of Denmark? Come on. Okay, so her name is Mary Elizabeth Donaldson, and she is the youngest of 4 children, I believe. She was born on February 5th, 1972 in Tasmania. I have this connection with her because she comes from an English-speaking country, fell in love with a Danish guy outside of Denmark, and he somehow sucked her into moving to Denmark. Obviously, he had no choice, right? We had a choice. But it's a very similar situation. And the fact that she had to come here and she had to adapt to all of this stuff, yeah, she probably had a lot of help. But it's still not always that easy. You know what I mean? And she had to learn Danish. Danish is not very easy to learn. And I can't imagine the amount of pressure that she was under. But I really like her because of the fact that I feel there are a lot of similarities. You know, she also was in marketing, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now. So it's like, not to say that I could have been the princess of Denmark. I mean, no. She's also quite beautiful. Oh my goodness. She kind of looks like she could be a Barbie doll. She's like flawless. But she's got that, you know, sweet, innocent type of beauty to her, in my opinion. She's just a classic beauty. I mean, look at this face. She doesn't take herself too seriously from what I have seen. So she's also quite cool. And together they have 4 children. I'm not going to memorize these names. I'm going to read them to you. Yes, I know all of their first names, but they have like 4 first names. I just don't understand. It's like, I like this name. Oh, I like this one too. Oh, I like this one. Oh, let's just use them all. So here we go. Child number 1 is Christian Valdemar Henry Jean, born October 15th, 2005. So he is the one who is in line to take over the throne after his dad. And I just think it's so sad in a way that you'll never get to see your child become the king or the queen because you have to be dead first. And I just think that's so sad. You know, like Queen Elizabeth, she's old, okay? Like in England, she's like really, really old. Why wouldn't she just say like, you know what? I've done this enough. You take over. I'm just gonna take a seat back here. I'm gonna take a break. You know what I mean? It's like for her, you're not taking the crown away from me. It's like you're gonna have to pry it out of my cold, dead hands. It's morbid. Anyways, Christian, and that's the thing in Denmark. Your name is either Frederik or Christian if you're going to be the king of Denmark. They only have 2. They flip back and forth, back and forth. So this Christian guy, spoiler alert, when he gets married and has a kid, his son's name is going to be Frederik. There's no mystery there. But what his other 3 first names will be a mystery. So we'll have to be, you know, sitting in suspense for that one. Moving on with kid number 2. Then they have Isabella, Henrietta, Ingrid, Margrethe. And I know a lot of these names are from like grandparents. You know, Margrethe is the name of her grandmother, and Ingrid, I think, is the name of her great-grandmother, and Henrietta is the name of Mary's mother. So, you know, they're all very symbolic. Then there are the twins, and they have a boy and a girl. It's Vincent Frederick Minnick Alexander and Josephine Sophia Ivalo Matilda. I mean, I don't know. If I knew that my kid had to have 4 names, I don't know if we'd be able to agree on it. It was a very difficult decision to come up with the one. Maybe that's something that's already planned out. Do you know more about that? I would really be curious to know about the 4 names. Obviously, we talked about some being family members, but I mean, geez, how far back do you have to go with some of these? But child number 2, Isabella, she's born on April 21st, 2007, and the twins were born on January 8th, 2011. I still have to tell you about my little story. Oh, don't you forget about that. But a couple things that I really love about them as a couple. Obviously, again, that they're really in love, and you can see that every time that they're together. But you can also see, again, that they're a really great family, and they're really enjoying the time that they have with their children, and I think that is so important. But I really like this couple because when they got married in May of 2004, they actually started up this awards program. So they give out 4 awards every year, and it's something that's televised. So it's called the Crown Prince Couple Awards, and these awards are based off of culture and, you know, society. So it's mostly for the arts, and each award, it's not just an award, they also are giving money out. One award is called a cultural prize, and one is the societal prize, and each of these, you would get 500,000 Danish kroner if you win. Then there is 2 awards that are called the Sprinkle Awards, and you get 100,000 Danish kroner a piece, which is really quite amazing. I mean, how many places do that, where they actually not only acknowledge these people in the arts and who are doing wonderful things in the community, but they're also giving them money, you know, maybe to help them with what it is that they're doing. And that's something they started when they got married, and they're continuing, and I think that is just fantastic. I think it is so great that they decided to do something as a couple, you know, to give back to their community, and it really shows that they do appreciate the people of Denmark, and I really like that. Okay, now it is story time, and I realize this has been a really long video. I apologize for that. But I want to tell you a story about 2009 when my husband and I were living outside of Chicago in the USA. My husband is Danish, so he was registered at the Danish consulate, which we had one of those in Chicago. And that means that Danes would receive emails from the Danish consulate with updates and information, things about, you know, anything that has to do with Danish related anything, right? Well, my husband gets this email in the spring of 2009, and he says the Crown Prince and Princess are coming to Chicago. And he says they're going to have a coffee and cake session, and they're asking some of the local Danes if they want to be a part of that. And I thought, hell yeah, sign us up. I said, can I go? I go, I want to go. I want to go. I don't know who these people are, but when you say prince and princess, I want to go. That sounds like a lot of fun. So we go into the Danish home. It is a retirement home for people who are Danish, who have lived in the US and want to be surrounded by, I guess, other Danish people. I don't know. But it's a retirement home. Here's a picture of my husband and I. We're both wearing like our suits and stuff. I wear a pantsuit. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm just like, what do you wear when you're gonna have coffee and cake with with royals? And we weren't the only people there, obviously. There was like 2 rooms kind of combined. So I guess if it was like a house, it'd be like a dining room and a living room. And then there was tables and everything. And they mostly hung out with the people who live there. You know, there was kind of like one room that was like for the retired senior citizen, old people who lived in that home, and then this other room that was adjoined. You know, there was no door or anything. I mean, we could see everything. It was a lot of the other Danes that live in the area that got invited, and so we were in that area. But it was really exciting, I have to say. They walked like right by, you know, it's like brushing my arm so close. I didn't get a lot of pictures or anything, but this is what I have. So I do have proof of that encounter, and it's so funny because, you know, like I was almost as close to the Crown Prince during the royal run when I did that race in Aarhus as I was to this. So, you know, but when you're an American, everybody has so many, you know, security guards around them. And so if there's anybody famous anywhere, you tend to not be very close to them. And so it was something that was really surprising for me. And the fact that we got to be a part of it, you know, it's like, I mean, how often does that happen? How often do you go somewhere and it's like, you're going to be in the official cake and coffee session with the royals? And I mean, that doesn't happen every day. So that's my little story about my little connection with the Crown Prince and Princess before I moved to Denmark, before I even knew really who any of the royals were. I had a little coffee and cake with them in Chicago. What about you? What do you think about the royals? What do you think about Crown Prince Frederik or Princess Mary? What do you think about them? I would love to know your thoughts in the comments, so please write them down. Thanks for coming along in this video. Thanks for coming along and having a little party with me. Again, another fun video. And I really hope to see you again in another one. As always, take care.